This drink outperformed the stock market by 218% in the past 10 years. And no, it's not wine, it's whiskey. And I wanted to find out what exactly would you have to do to achieve such high and consistent returns with something you can drink if it doesn't work out. With the inflation rising higher and higher and the S&P 500 dropping lower and lower, we should look at alternative forms of investing. People usually think of gold, luxury watches and art, but I wanted to take a closer look at the asset that not only doesn't fall when the stock market falls, but also outperforms the stock market in the bull run. We have two types of whiskey investing: whiskey cask investing and whiskey bottle investing. Because unlike wine, an unopened bottle of whiskey does not get better the longer it sits on your shelf, so you can't just buy random bottles in your local liquor store and expect insane long-term gains. Meanwhile, whiskey in casks gets better with age. The main difference between investing in whiskey casks and investing in traditional paper investments on the stock market is that whiskey casks are a tangible asset. That means when you buy a whiskey cask, you own a physical cask of whiskey, including the spirit it contains, the same way you own a car or your home. Your whiskey cask can be sold, bottled, consumed by lovers of whiskey worldwide, or drank after you lost all your money trading stocks and options. Whiskey investment runs on a simple principle: the more whiskey that is consumed, the higher the value of that cask in the long run. Whiskey casks have a good advantage over gold and luxury watches. They're a product for consumption, meaning that they become rarer at a much faster rate as similar casks are bottled and drank. Because the value of this asset is not tied to company success or the fixed interest that they pay, the worth of the item is the inherent value of its properties. There is always a ready-made market to sell as well, since many distilleries will buy back secondary market casks, and the rarity of whiskies increases exponentially with age for two reasons. First of all, whiskey casks cannot be aged indefinitely. On average, the ABV or alcohol by volume percentage drops by 0.5% per year as a whiskey cask ages. However, the ABV must stay above 40% to be legally labeled as Scotch whiskey, meaning that most casks are not capable of reaching above 40 years old. Secondly, since most consumer level single malts are bottled at 12 to 18 years old, this leaves only a small quantity of premium stock for long-term aging. Therefore, we can easily see how as a cask reaches an old age, its price increases much more per year than at a young age. To reap the benefits of this exponential growth, it is wise to start by buying casks at an older age, unless you're ready to hold a cask for 15 or even 20 years. Not all brands perform the same at all ages. Some distilleries are known for whiskey that tastes bland when young, but ages gracefully over time. So if an investor is targeting a young cask, some distilleries are positioned to perform much better than others. But what if the cask of whiskey you decide to buy was made in a bad year? Well, while wine has good and bad years, Scotch is very consistent. The value of whiskey casks can be impacted by reductions in demand, but a cask is highly unlikely to lose long-term value due to poor quality ingredients. Scotch and other luxury assets also enjoy further protection from economic instability, as the ultimate end consumers of these investment items typically rank among the wealthiest. Even during the instability of COVID, the consumption habits of the super wealthy remained unchanged, which led to the most expensive bottles being drunk at a double the normal rate. A cask of whiskey from a distillery can cost you from $1,000 to $65,000. The price depends on many different factors. The two main factors are the source of the cask and the size. Here we can see a list of some distilleries and their prices for the newly made casks of whiskey. And as we can see, the price starts at 1,995 British pounds and ends at 12,000 British pounds, depending on the source or distillery. Buying a new cask directly from a distillery used to be the cheapest way to buy a cask, starting at around 1,000 British pounds, even for a cask from a more established distillery. But distilleries have upped their prices in recent years. Newly made casks are usually all from comparable stock, so when you come to sell your cask, there can be a lot of similar casks on the market, which can impact the profit you'll be able to make on the cask. But at the same time, choosing to buy a new casks from a newer distillery before they invest into their brand is one way to speculate on increasing the profit available from your cask. For example, a cask of Macallan could be bought for only 2,500 British pounds in the 1990s. 1990s. Macallan since invested heavily in their brand, and as such these casks have appreciated much more rapidly than other casks purchased around that period. It is now impossible to buy a cask of Macallan except by invitation. Once you have your cask, you need to store it somewhere. This must be in an HMRC approved warehouse. So no, you can't keep it in your garage or man shed. Storage costs are very low and range between $26 to $40 a year. When you want to sell your investment, you can either sell the whole cask or bottle it and sell it in bottles. There are different sizes of cask and each one can be bottled in a different amount of bottles. Quarter holds 178 bottles, barrel 285 bottles, hogshead 357 bottles, bot 714 bottles, and puncheon 785 bottles. This being true if the cask is entirely full, but in reality the amount of whiskey in a cask reduces by an average of 2% a year. It occurs because casks are not sealed, so some of the liquid evaporates and some is absorbed by the wood. As I've said, whiskey in bottles does not get better with age, but there are some exceptions on which you could potentially capitalize. You have to do your own due diligence on what whiskies are highly sought after, so being on the lookout for rare whiskies at affordable prices is basically the gist of this investment path. You can either purchase a rare bottle at a price point that is acceptable and sell it at a marked up price immediately, or hold it for a few years and sell it when its value appreciates over time. When you're choosing which bottles to trade, you mainly have to pay attention to three factors: scarcity, status, and rarity. What do I mean by scarcity? Well, ideally you would find whiskies that are from distilleries that have stopped production. When there is no supply, the existing bottles in the market will keep dwindling and with that decrease. Meanwhile, the demand and price will increase. When you're looking for status, you have to find brands that are tied with prestige and elegance. There are also brands that typically have low production volume since it's targeted towards a very specific audience. Whiskies like Louis XIII are synonymous with prestige and glamour. And what do I mean by rarity? Well, some brands like the Macallan release a very limited number of bottles for their limited edition series, and these are coveted by whiskey lovers from all over the world. These whiskies are made hard to obtain as the release is tightly controlled by the brand. Storing whiskey bottles is a lot simpler and cheaper than wine bottles. You don't need a special wine cellar, but the bottle must be stored in a cool, dark environment that is not humid and kept upright to prevent the cork from disintegrating. I found that the simplest way to sell bottles online is on the whiskey exchange. You simply send them photographs and they'll reply with a free valuation. And one of the best things about investing in drinks opposed to stocks is that even if your investment doesn't make insane returns, you can still drink it at the end. But before you decide to do anything, I encourage you to do your own due diligence, as this is not a financial advice and is for entertainment purposes only. And on that note, I will end this video. If you liked it, YouTube also thinks you'll like the video that just popped up. If you have any questions or recommendations, leave them in the comment zone below, and thanks for watching.